Welcome. Today we're going to be taking apart a Huawei Matebook Pro Mach W29. I guess it's actually the Matebook X Pro. And to begin, we're going to need a T6 Torx. So on the bottom case, we have a very similar layout to the MacBook, and of course these screws need to come out to remove this bottom case, and that is our small T6. So we'll go ahead and remove the screws. Alright, now that we have those bottom screws out, we're going to go ahead and pop off this bottom case. So we're just going to work a spudgy in the little crack between the bottom case and the palmist. Just going to break that open a little bit more, and then we should be able to remove this bottom case. Alright, just kind of have to pop it off all the way around, and then you can remove it and access the inside of the laptop. Alright, so looking at the inside, we're going to go ahead and switch to a small Phillips head. I'm just going to call it a 2.0 for now. Alright, so it looks like the heatsink kind of covers the battery, and most of everything else. So the first thing I'm going to take off is this heatsink slash bracket, and of course we'll just have to remove these screws. Alright, so now that we've removed the bracket screws all the way around, we'll just kind of give it a wiggle. Make sure we got all the screws, and then we can remove it. I find it interesting, the fan is not connected to the heatsink by any real means. It's just kind of a, I don't know, it's kind of a weird system. Never seen that before. Alright, so we can go ahead and remove the battery as well. So I'll just remove the remaining few screws. And for the battery connector, you're just gonna get a couple fingernails on that connector and then just kind of wiggle it straight out. And we can go ahead and lift it up on the battery. It looks like there's one more screw here. That's why it's always good to wiggle instead of just grabbing the part and yanking it. It's really easy to overlook a tiny screw inside a laptop, so as long as you're careful and you give it the wiggle test, you should be fine. Alright, so the SSD drive, I'm not sure what kind of fastener that is. It might be a Phillips with a sticker on it. Yeah, so that sticker kind of covers the fastener, but it's actually a little Phillips underneath there, so just press in the bit until it digs into the screw, and then you'll be able to remove it and pull that SSD drive out. Alright, giving it a quick look, we have a little USB board over on this side, so we'll go ahead and just lift up on that ribbon. And then we have another over here. It's a flip up type. And once you flip up that little retainer gate, then you can pull that ribbon out. And we will remove these screws. Alright, so the one screw holding on the little ribbon retainer can stay put, and then you can go ahead and remove the USB board. Alright, so we'll go ahead and flip it over and we can remove the cooling fan. Like a little bit of tape over the connector, so we'll just pull that tape back and then we can flip up the little retainer. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and remove the motherboard. So we'll first disconnect any ribbons that are connected, and then we'll finish removing any screws holding it in. Some of these connectors are very, very small, so you might need a nice fine tip tool to flip up these little retainer gates. And for the speakers, it looks like it might be a little bit tricky. Needs to lift kind of straight up, but you don't have anything that can really get a bite on it. So you're going to have to go underneath the little wires and just pop it straight up. It can be a little iffy. It does have pretty good resistance, but just get under there, and then just once you've got enough pressure upwards, it should pop it up and out. Looks like we got another just pop off type ribbon, and then of course the Wi-Fi antennas just pop straight up and off. And it looks like there's a couple more tiny ones over here. And another speaker connection underneath the tape. And another ribbon. Alright, so we'll give it one last check and just make sure that we've disconnected all of the ribbons, and now we can go ahead and remove the screws. Alright, so it looks like all the screws, so we're going to go ahead and lift from the side opposite the ports. Usually with most motherboards, It's going to have one set of ports poking through the case, so you can't really lift it from that side without bending the ports. So just lift from the inside, give it a little bit of a wiggle, and we'll slowly and gently remove it from the case, and then slowly flip it over and just make sure there's no more ribbons connected to it. That's how you remove the motherboard. Alright, we're ready to remove the display assembly from the palm rest assembly, and we're going to do that by removing the screws holding these two black ribbon straps that are coming from the display. Alright, once you got those nice and loose, we'll go ahead and remove the screws holding on the little boards here at the bottom. Alright, so it looks like we have everything separated. It needs to be separated, and the only thing holding the display assembly to the palm rest now are the 4 hinge screws. So we're going to go ahead and remove those. Make sure the bit's the right size. And the best way to do that without it being kind of awkward at the end is to go ahead and open the display up to begin with. And then once you remove these screws, they'll be easy to separate. There's a general rule to usually when you're removing a display from a computer, the hinges have to be in the open position. Alright, so for the last 2 screws, just make sure to support it with your hand in the middle. And then once we have those hinge screws off, we can separate the display assembly from the palm rest. Alright, so it looks like the speakers are just held on by some small Phillips head screws. And I am betting there are some Phillips head screws underneath here holding on the touchpad. If this is anything like a MacBook, then there will definitely be screws just pulling back that cover. Wi-Fi antenna is up here, held on by definitely some kind of strong adhesive. And it looks like we do have a power button board, and I will go ahead and remove that as well. So I'll just remove that little metal cover, and we should be able to free the little button. It seems to be sealed in there with some kind of silicone. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just leave that power button for now. It might just be something that needs to be acquired with the palm rest, because it does not look like the button is meant to come out and then be able to be put back in again. Alright, and the keyboard, there might be some screws underneath, but for the most part, most of the modern laptops will have a keyboard that is riveted to the palm rest. I can probably just get a little peek in there. Okay, so this keyboard is actually, there's going to be a ton of tiny screws all the way up and down. So it looks like the keyboard is replaceable. But if it's anything like the MacBooks, there's going to be dozens and dozens of them. So it's your call if you want to replace that keyboard or just buy it with the palm rest. So that is about it for the palm rest. There's just the Wi-Fi antennas, little, might be a lid sensor or something. Alright, so we are left with the display assembly. And this display assembly is not going to be basically repairable unless it's by the factory. The bezel is a real thin plexiglass, and the back is a real thin aluminum case. So to separate these, you probably need some specialty tools, a heat gun, and a lot of patience. So if you need to replace your display assembly, you're definitely going to need to buy a complete assembly, and then actually installing it in the laptop is probably not going to be that hard. Just installation is a reverse of the video you just saw. So that is how you disassemble most of a Huawei Matebook X Pro Mach W29. It's a 13.9-inch touchscreen laptop by Huawei, seemingly in competition with the MacBook Pro, given the name Matebook Pro. So if you found the video informative or you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you.